Clemson football, and not just Clemson football, Clemson fans, good grief. If you're just a fan of a team, you can learn a lesson or two from St. John's and Louisville men's basketball team that coaching matters. I know it is shocking, but these two programs proves it more and more as the season progresses. If the season ended today, I know we have March Madness coming up as far as the NCAA tournament. But St. John's men's basketball and Louisville men's basketball proves to us Clemson fans and anyone else who cares that coaching matters, and it's time we start treating it, well, as a fact and not just something you can throw up against the wall, and if it sticks, it sticks. Hey, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're hanging out with me. This is March the 16th. It's a Sunday. The ACC tournament for men's basketball is over. Duke, go figure, wins the whole thing. Clemson got into the semifinal. I wish that they would have got into the final. I feel like they would have played Duke very well, but hey, Louisville had something to say about that. But Clemson has a nice shot in the NCAA tournament. Hopefully they'll catch fire and hopefully break through that Elite Eight that Clemson, historically, they can reach the Elite Eight, but they can't get to the Final Four. This would be the team to do it, pulling for them. But if you like talking college sports, especially Clemson football, I hope you'll subscribe. It is free. I do appreciate it. If you've watched my show for years now, and I started to burp, and that's not like I was getting choked up. If you've watched my show for some time now, you know that I have talked about coaching matters. Much to my surprise is how many of people who watch me consistently and probably will even watch this video who says they know that coaching matters, but transparently, they don't. All you have to do is allow your favorite, I don't know, this is going to be a hypothetical and hasn't happened to us Clemson fans, have your favorite football team start hiring a bunch of inexperienced guys because they played football there and or they know the culture and or they seem really excited and energetic about the football team, and maybe they know a little bit about what they're doing, but then all of a sudden it comes back to bite you in the butt. You start to lose more games than you used to. Suddenly, until recently, recruiting's not been that stellar. It hasn't been terrible, but it hasn't been elite. And you waste the eligibility of really good players. I've beat this drum until a lot of you are sick and tired of hearing about it. But my number one goal for you is for you to see the light just like I saw the light. Because here's the inside story. I'm about to get to St. John's and Louisville men's basketball in a second, and the lesson that we all can learn no matter the sport, no matter what sport we're talking about. I'm going to get to that in just a second, but I want to set this baseline for some of you who don't know my personal story of Clemson and college sports fandom. I used to be the guy that if I could get my hands on a newspaper or a magazine, way back in the day before the internet was just really exploding. Yes, I'm not too old, but I'm old enough to remember when we were looking forward to the Athlon Sports book. I mean, I have the one from, I think, 1995 over here somewhere with Antoine Wyatt on the front of it. And we were looking forward to anything the newspaper would, local newspaper or national newspaper would write about our Clemson Tigers. And I would buy into it, hook, line, and sinker. I could tell you why our running backs was better than your running backs, but I would forget things like, you know, whoever's playing quarterback for you can determine whether you overuse that running back, and the opposing defense has to, I don't know, take the run away by stacking the box. You remember Virginia Tech did that to Clemson. Will Proctor, you remember that? Will Proctor, you had a good running game, but we couldn't pass the ball. So what did Bud Foster do? He took the run away. Clemson lost that game. And then after a while of having egg on my face, even as recent as the 2023 season, though I had learned a lot, I had to come to a grim reality that coaching across the board matters. Not just your head coach, not just one coordinator, not just a few position coaches who know what they're doing, but as a whole, coaching matters. And if you don't realize that coaching matters, or if you believe that Dabo has got this, and some of you, I'm not downing Coach Sweeney here. I'm not taking a shot at Coach Sweeney, but Dabo is not God. I know some of you have a hard time. You say you know that until some of you replies, Dabo's got this. He's not the Almighty. He's not. If Dabo doesn't hire good coaches around him, remember, Dabo is not an X's and O's guy. He's admitted that. So Dabo, of all people, needs to hire the very best offensive and defensive coordinators, the very best position coaches. He needs the very best of the best coaching around him. But really, so does everyone else. Nick Saban is a defensive guru, but he's had some pretty doggone good offenses because he went out and hired guys who knew what they were doing, and he hired guys who would bring in the talent to Alabama and then keep that talent train going. Coaching matters. But over the weekend, a 70-year-old man who had found himself in trouble, who used to, in fact, coach for Louisville, won a national championship there, but had to be vacated because some not so good things that were going on in the program. Yes, one Rick Pitino, the Al Pacino of college basketball. He lost his job at Louisville, and years later he came back with a little old school called Iona. He stayed there for 2 or 3 years. I'd have to go look back, but I want to say it's about 3 years or 4 years, something like that. Forgive me not having that nailed down. And then he got them to the NCAA tournament, and then 2 years ago, St. John's came calling. St. John's was going nowhere in their basketball program. Nowhere. And transparently, for some reason, I want to tell you this, I have no attachment to the school, but I've always watched St. John's basketball. I have. It's really weird. I know. Make fun of me. And this team in New York should be really good because they're in New York City. They should be able to pull third-string guys out of the New York area and still beat the trash out of most people. But they haven't. They fired Mike Anderson. I want to say he was the former coach at Arkansas. He came there. I think Mike was wanting to sue the school, said he was wrongfully terminated. But yesterday, I think any judge that saw the results of this season, and then, of course, yesterday would have to say, sorry, Mike, Pitino's just that good. St. John's had, and as of right now, they are having the best basketball season they've had since 1984, 1985. I want to say that was the year that Carnesecca was running things, and you had guys like, I believe, Chris Mullen playing for them. That's a name from the past. St. John's won their first Big East tournament yesterday since 2000. Yeah, year 2000. That's where you could have frosted tips and you wouldn't get made fun of. You still have frosted tips right now, folks. They're going to make fun of you. Anyway, so big things are going on with St. John's basketball. I think they won their 30th game yesterday. I mean, it's just nuts. Pitino, 70 years old, wins in his second season. By the way, go look up how many, at all the schools I believe he's ever coached at in his second season, he always got them to a conference championship or got them to the NCAA tournament. I mean, unbelievable numbers. He's the only coach in NCAA men's history to lead 5 teams to a conference championship. 5 different teams. And I can't remember all of them, but I know that obviously St. John's, Louisville, Kentucky, Boston University, and there's one more. I can't remember. But what can Clemson and us fans learn from St. John's men's basketball? Coaching matters. Now, I know for some of you are going to say things about Rick Pitino, and you're going to say, well, Brian, he was guilty or allegedly guilty of this, that, and the other. And you know me, I believe that we should have good ethics. I've talked about this a lot. We need to have good ethics and we need to have integrity. But there's one problem here. The basketball going through the hoop is not affected by that. Maybe a little bit, but not a lot. Meaning, if I started coaching, I don't know, if I started coaching Clemson tomorrow and I started steal, killing, and destroy, the very description that Jesus gave us of Satan, that doesn't mean that Clemson would do something they can't do, and that's win the ACC tournament. The ball would still have to go through the hoop. Clemson's defense would still have to play defense. And Clemson would still have to beat the officials and Duke. There we go. But I had to do that. The ball still has to go through the hoop. You still have to play defense. You still have to coach them up. And you still have to get the players there. So, there we go. Let's flip over to Louisville men's basketball team. Now, if you've watched my channel, every now and again I'll talk about other sports periodically, very little, but periodically, like I'm doing right now. Louisville men's basketball, and I'm looking at their season right now. They hired a former player, kind of a legend there in the Louisville area, Kenny Payne. They hired him in 2022-2023 season. He went 4-28. All right. He then went on last year to go 8-20. Not last year, in 23-24 season, he went on to have a 8-24 season. He was 3-17 in the ACC. They fired him. Now, it was last year. I said, if you watch my channel, I said that College of Charleston's men's basketball coach, Pat Kelsey, was something else. I said if Clemson decided to move on from Brad Brownell, and this is before Brad went to the Elite Eight last year, okay? And while Brad is doing well right now, I think he's implementing the portal very well. I'm just giving you my opinion, very strong opinion, that had Brownell been coaching basketball somewhere where they really cared about basketball, he'd have been gone a long time ago. And I think he's a really good coach. He's just a really good coach who doesn't have to be really good. And a lot of people would disagree with me on that, and that's totally fine. I mean, teach their own. But if he were coaching at, say, a Virginia who's won a national championship in the past 10 years, they would have fired him by now, after about 10 years. If he had been coaching somewhere like, in Arizona, Kansas, he'd have been gone a long time ago. But he wasn't. He was at Clemson, and I'm glad to see him pull it together. With that said, I said before last season, go get Pat Kelsey out of College of Charleston. This guy can coach. He got his team into the NCAA tournament. They were beating teams they were not supposed to be, and they're little old College of Charleston, okay? Pat Kelsey, in his first season at Louisville. Now, remember last year, they had someone who had played for Louisville. He was a really good recruiter. I want to say that he had worked with Rick Pitino on his staff. They won 8 games last year. I mean, what Pitino did was unbelievable. In year 2, winning, I think, 30 games, the best season since 84-85, winning the Big East tournament. This guy right here, this is not his second season. This is Pat Kelsey's first season. 27-6, 18-2 in conference. They lost last night to Duke and the officials in ACC tournament play. They lost to them last night. Last year, they wouldn't even made the ACC tournament because, that's now the new thing in the ACC. If you don't win so many games, you don't even get into the ACC tournament because it's expanded so much. Pat Kelsey does this in season 1. What's the lesson? Coaching matters. In a story. How do us fans, and this is a great place to kind of pivot, how do us fans forget important stuff like coaching matters? How? Well, first, fandom. To quote my buddy Tiger Paul Craven over at the Voice of College Football Clemson's channel, he said, fans comes from the word fanatics. If you get someone emotionally charged about a specific issue or a certain team or whatever, logic goes out the window. Logic that weighs everything across the board equally. They'll hone in on that one specific thing that is really good while holding up their middle finger to the results that are bad everywhere else. That's what fans do. Now, sports is supposed to be a pastime. Now, every time I turn on the television and I'm watching a sports game and they're trying to teach me a lesson about something, my stomach turns, because in that moment, I don't need a lesson. I need a getaway from everyday life. I don't know about you. Maybe I'm speaking for myself. I also think some of those lessons are one-sided and it's kind of funny. But with that said, sports is not important. So on one side, you could say, why get all worked up over it? I do agree. There is a place you have to stop being so engulfed that it ruins your day. You can't spend time with your family. You can't sleep at night. I will tell you this, that as the years has went on and I've gotten older, heck, I have a channel here. I've met some really cool people. I've had some interactions with some really cool people. When I'm out and about, people will say, hey, I watch your channel. And it always shocks me. It's really, really cool. But at the end of the day, I still go to sleep when Clemson loses. I'm not ticked off at my wife over nothing because a bunch of guys who I don't know, coached by a guy, I know his name, but I don't know him, and you don't either, lost a game. So there is that line. On the other hand, if it's not important, why can't we tell the truth about it? That is where I want to look at fans and say, this is a pastime. It's supposed to be fun. Why can't we just tell the truth about it? St. John's went out and hired at the time I think he's about 68-year-old coach who was a proven winner, who also had some baggage. And I'm not supporting said baggage. But they hired a really good coach. Rick Pitino can coach basketball, whether you like him or not. Whether you hate him, whether you think he's a scumbag, whether you think he's great. He can coach basketball. Pat Kelsey can coach basketball. He can. And they both proved it. And the lesson that we can take from this is that, let's say one day Dabo retires. I don't know when. He retires. He calls it. And it is time to hire a new head football coach. Now, here's what fans do and what I used to do. Every now and again, I fall into the fandom stupidity. And you never really know where you fall into it until you start to smell the stench, if you know what I mean. But just hang with me here. I'm not near as bad as I used to be of falling into the naive optimism over a football team, over Clemson. So much so that some of you have told me I don't even like Clemson. I'm not even a fan because you're still in that place. You don't realize that you're in that place. You've been told that's what a good fan does. Is a fan is an idiot. And really, it's what you've been told. Or taught, or it's been modeled for you, that when you become a true fan, you could have Pee Wee Herman coaching your football team, but because you pull for that team, they're going to win. And then they lose 70-0, and you go, oh, well, can't win them all. What you should be saying is, I need to find out. I have a couple of questions. Who hired Pee Wee Herman to be our football coach? That's what you should be asking. But one day when Dabo retires, Clemson's going to hire another football coach. And there's going to be names out the wazoo for this job unless something bad happens. Unless something bad happens, like Clemson goes on, starts losing a bunch of games. With the recent change in attitude of hiring experienced coaches like Allen and Luke and implementing certain NIL tactics to bring in players, and with the most recent recruiting success, I know they still have to sign, but listen, they won't sign if you can't get them to commit. So we're doing good there. But the point is, let's just say that Clemson is doing okay. Dabo Swinney retires. Who do you hire? Who? Well, we want to understand. We want to hire someone who understands the culture and someone who's really good at coaching. So and so over here says this guy is like really good. No, you're wrong. I did a video just a couple of days ago. Talked about Clemson's key to success so far. Coaching, culture, and now money. I explained that. You need to go watch it. All of those matter. You take one away. You take one of those variables away, and you're going to have an incomplete conclusion. So yes, culture does need to be the thing. The first thing is Clemson has Clemson's football team has a reputation that over the past 14 years or so, let's say past 10 or 11 years, Clemson has really proven itself to be a true football school. And over the past few years, 4 years, that's been going down like this. But still, Clemson can get so much. So many good coaches. The goal would be to get someone who does understand the culture, but who can first and foremost coach. Who is really good at bringing in the best offensive coordinator, the best defensive coordinator, the best position coaches, and who knows how to connect with the recruiting community, whether it's high school or whether it's the transfer portal, in that environment. Because the current environment's going to change. 5 years ago, recruiting was very different. It's a different environment. 5 years from now, I don't even know what it's going to be like. But that person must understand that. Do you want, and I know someone's going to say this. I have the comment section turned off. I can't see it right now, but I just want to say this too. Someone is going to go, oh, so let me guess. You don't care if the coach sees that these guys graduates, and you don't care if these guys are good young men or if they're prepared for the future. I never said that. But see, you're playing the either or game. I play all of the above game. See, what you need to understand too is the level of players Clemson is bringing into Clemson. These are guys who are going to these elite camps throughout high school. And that's where the big schools, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Tennessee, I could keep going, Oregon, Texas, they're going to these camps. They're paying attention to these guys. They know who the big guys are, the big names. And all of these big names, they're at camps with one another. It's hard to sell a young man on, I know you were in camp with that guy over there, and in fact, you were better than him coming out of high school, but we didn't develop you well. But guess what? You're on the Paul journey, and you're going to go make $75,000 a year as a general manager of something. And that guy over there, you were better than, and he decided not to come here. You went somewhere else, and he was developed. He's makes $75 million over a 4-year period, folks. let's not have our orange and white colored glasses on so much that it just makes us downright stupid and silly. There's no either or here. Of course, we want the players to be good people, and I laid that out just a couple of days ago on the video. But Clemson would need to go out and get the very best head coach they could possibly get, who understands the current climate and who's had success in the current climate. There's no need to hire someone who's unproven, because Clemson's already learned what that does to the program. Look at St. John's. Rick Pitino, proven. Pat Kelsey, proven. If he could do that at College of Charleston, he could definitely do it at Louisville, and both of these men proves that. So today, if you're watching me and you're like, Brian, I don't like Clemson, I'm a fill-in-the-blank fan, this lesson applies to you. Maybe you turned on this video and you're like, I like college football, but college baseball is really my thing. Same thing there, my friend. It's the same thing there. You get a good manager, they can turn things around. Look at Bakich at Clemson. I mean, he's doing a great job. Again, if I have not stated this clearly, I want to make this as clear as possible. My number one goal for any and everyone who watches my channel, I hope you enjoy it, even if you disagree with me. But I want to make it to where if you have an unrealistic outlook on sports, you'll realize it. If you have an unrealistic outlook, let me rephrase that, on the importance of a coach, you'll do one of two things. You'll realize it, and it's not that you agree with me. I'm just agreeing with the truth. I'm not the one. It's like finding out the truth about something. You would begin to agree with it. It's not me. It's the truth. It's history. History proves itself over and over. Over and over. And the likelihood of hiring another Dabo Swinney that's a wide receivers coach is slim to none. Slim to none. Man, I got about to burp. I shouldn't keep drinking soda while I'm doing a video. Looks like I'm about to cry. I'm not about to cry over this. No. So, but here you said, boy, Brian, there's two options. The second option is to where you hear it so much to where you're like, well, you know what? I know he's right, but I'm sorry. I just want to be a dumb fan. At least you admitted it to yourself. At least you admitted it to yourself. I'm going to get over here in the comment section. Let me see. B, I grew up 45 minutes away from St. John's. Yeah, it's a big day for the Johnnies. I'm going to tell you that. Coaching matters, man. Coaching flipping matters. Blake Ellis. This was probably Clemson's best shot to win the ACC. I doubt they even win it in my lifetime at 48 years old. Blake Ellis. I'm 42. Turned 43 late in the year. And, you know, I have a hard time disagreeing with you, man. And then I watched Louisville play Duke last night without Cooper Flagg. And it was like, Louisville couldn't make a shot. Couldn't. And I know I was saying some stuff about the officials. There were some weird calls that went on in that game. If you really want to see some weird calls, go back and watch the Tennessee-Florida game today. The Big East Championship, from what I can remember, because I watched almost all of it, Big East Championship between Creighton and St. John's, officiating was actually pretty doggone good. I liked they allowed them to play physical, but if it was a foul on one side, it was a foul on another. That there wasn't weird, this is out of bounds, this is out of bounds, and it clearly touched someone else. Those makeup calls, we didn't see it. They did a really, really good job. But no, I don't know what it is with Clemson and the ACC tournament, though I will tell you this. I'm still shocked that they're doing as well as they're doing, but I credit that to the transfer portal, and Brownell fixed his problem of he needed scores. He needed scores. He's been a really good defensive coach for many, many years. Clemson is very tough to play offense against. but I always said he needed scores, and he's been getting the scores out of the transfer portal. So I would like to see us get that monkey off our back. What could really do it is make it to the Final Four. Now, obviously, you know me. I'm one of those guys. I'm always pushing forward. I'm always trying. Even when I fail, I set the bar high to where if I fail, I would probably go farther than what I normally would had I been like more realistic with it. You know what I'm saying? There's different thoughts and ideas about that. But getting to the Final Four, I think could really catapult Clemson because it helped them in the offseason. But I'm with you, man. I feel very weird. I feel very weird about it. Tiger Tom, some of these small school to old NAIA schools, especially the ones which don't play football like COC, Erskine, and Lander, have historically had some good to great basketball teams. Yeah, you remember Coach Kress had a really good team with College of Charleston many years ago. I want to say it was in the 90s. They made it to like the Sweet 16. I think it was John Kress is his name. He had that New York accent. Man, he could coach. And they look good, too. They look good representing the state. Well, other schools like Wofford, Newberry play football and develop some great basketball teams. Yeah, Wofford's in the college, or not college football, is in the basketball tournament. They beat Furman Monday night. Kind of shocked at that they beat Furman. But it was a good game. If you ever get a chance to go up to Asheville, folks, and see that Southern Conference tournament, it's really affordable. You can catch like 2 games for the price of one, and it's actually quite enjoyable. So me and the youngest went up last Saturday, and general admission tickets, sat in some of the best seats I've ever had. I'm serious, and it was a good time. It was really a good time. Billy Napier, I'm shocked he's still the coach at Florida right now, but I don't know how much time they're going to give him. He definitely turned things around later on in the year. Now, if he can really take off and do a great job at Florida this year, okay, he's fine. But if he has even last year's year this year, they may axe him. I don't know. Let's see. All here in SC. That's right. Bo Evil. Hey guys, good to see you. We bit out the lights of OSU with the kid from Ohio who said that he chose Clemson because of Tom Allen. You're 100% right. That's called coaching. Coaching matters. He led right off Tiger Tom with Coach Allen. And that's what people needs to understand. Coaching matters in strategy, in development, in recruiting. And it's the perfect trifecta. You have to have that. May there, Brian. Good to see you, Jason Wilkinson. Good to see you. You spoke about nonsense earlier. Much highly successful coaches minimize nonsense off the field, however, ban nonsense on the field. Yeah. Some coaches, I wonder if there's still, and especially Patino, he's 70. He was in the era, if you really think about it, he was in the era of like the Danny Ford days of coaching in the 80s. And Danny Ford could get away with so much because he came from that Alabama line where Bear Bryant, I mean, the stuff he was getting away with, I mean, you wouldn't have got away 20 years ago with some of the stuff. And then, you know, we talk about scandals and stuff like this that deals of the adult nature. I'll put it that way because I don't know if little ears are watching. I don't know and I'm going to say this, I don't know all the details of the whole Patino Louisville thing. So just want to lay that out there for anyone who's like, I can't believe this guy agrees with it. I'm not saying I agree with it whatsoever. That's not the point. But I have heard of schools for years now who would have the prettiest girls on campus go pick up the big recruit coming into town, or have the prettiest girl from the school or, you know, that sorority be the assistant or the on-campus guide or something like that for big recruits. And I'm just saying this stuff happens a lot. I think that where we need to incredibly draw a line in this iron, not even in the sand, in the iron, is when non-consensual things go on. That's obvious because there's an R word for that. We don't need to ever agree with that. Next, we also need to ask ourselves, I mean, are we running a brothel here? And I think that stuff like that has to stop. At the same time, there's that weird balance of, and I've talked about this, and I think some people don't know how to take it. I think some people are just like, well, Brian, we know that's reality, but we wish you'd stop talking about it. That's not my style. You know, I've joked about this, that when you look at athletes, there's a lot of athletes, and I mean, this is the age old, you know, story, whether you're going back to kings or men of importance in history. In history, you know, you'd have just this disgusting looking human being who had let themselves go, but they were a king, and then some beautiful woman comes out, and that's their wife. And in olden times, there was a wife, and then there was other people that the wife knew about, or multiple wives. And we all know, we all have functioning brains, that if those men were not in power, those women would have had absolutely no desire to even shake their hand, much less marry them. And so when we see these college athletes, you know, they're human beings too. And they have what I like to jokingly call the Instagram girlfriend, very pretty girl. Very pretty girl. She's dating a guy that looks like a foot. I mean, he's ugly. I mean, I'm not being, listen to me. Some of you can say, hey, that is so vain and that is so shallow. Well, she's dating him in hopes that she gets his NIL money. I think you're pointing the vain and shallow at someone else. I mean, you need to, I'm just calling it as it is. So, you know, when you see that, you step back and you go, you know, unless there's something that is like assault going on, these guys are going to find themselves with some girl who, if they tore their ACL tomorrow and they had to go work a regular job, she wouldn't even fart towards them, much less date them. So it's just this, it's a bunch of weird stuff. It just creates really, really odd situations. Yeah, Chris was great. Let me see. Callie fought Atlanta back in the day. Neil Gordon at Newberry College back then. I'd have to look them up. You're schooling me here. Can Bobby Bowden say, yeah, I know my kids robbed them all, but they are good kids? Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm gonna leave that one alone. Well, folks, if you've hung with me this long, there's 32 of you in there. I'm going to ask you for this. I'm going to ask you this. Hit that thumbs up. You said Callie Galt. Okay. I hope you'll hit the thumbs up. Why? A, it's free. It does help the channel. If you've stayed this long, you've had to have at least liked something that I've said. So I hope you'll hit the thumbs up. It does help. It does help the channel. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, I beat this cow to death, but my channel's growing. It's going on 2.5 years old, almost 3 years old. Our channel has been growing. I've had some really good interactions with some. I'm shocked how many people interact with me. But the point is, if you want to support the channel, but you don't want to, pay $3 per month or $5 per month, which, by the way, you can do that. There's a join button down there. Subscribe. It is free. I do appreciate it. I'm an independent, and it would help us out. So, All right, y'all take care of yourself. Learn your lesson. Learn your lesson. No matter how good your school has been, no matter how how many great wonder years you had, no matter how many championships you have accumulated, no matter how many players you've put in the NFL, you just can't hire any old bozo to come coach your school, your offense, your defense, your positions. You know why? Because it will be exposed. Why? Because coaching matters. Y'all take care of yourself, and as always, go Tigers.